Welcome to Cory's Stories. Are you ready to meditate with Cory?
Hi, my friend. I wanted to just jump in for a quick minute just before you listen to your story and say, if you love Heidi and Cherry and you love Tucker and Leo and you think you would like to be in one of their clubs, go to the link below my video and you can join the Cat Club or the Tucker and Leo Club, or you can join both the clubs called Raining Cats and Dogs. It's a club where you get 3 or 5 or 2 exclusive stories every month that are sent to you, and you get to have your name mentioned in those stories. If that's something that you want, then talk to your guardians, your mom, your dad, your auntie, your grandma, whoever it is that helps to take care of you, and ask them if you can join the cat club or the dog club. Okay, enjoy my story. I love you so much. Bye. Bye.
Are you ready to meditate with Cory? Climb up into your bed and make sure that you're laying down really comfortably. Know that everything is just right in your room. The lights are just right. You're wearing your comfortable pajamas. You're ready to relax your body and let go of your busy, busy day. Take a nice big deep breath and settle into your bed so that you can hopefully eventually fall fast asleep as you listen to the story. Heidi, Cherry, and Vea were hanging out with Tucker and Leo. They'd also got a new friend with them. His name is Winston. Winston was Isabel's new cat. Winston was a black tabby. Probably a grey tabby, but he was black. He was very, very dark. But he had the slightest tiger stripes in his fur, and he had the biggest blue eyes. His eyes were like sapphires. They were like bright blue sky or clear blue oceans. He was only a kitten. It wasn't too big, but the cats and Tucker and Leo instantly loved him. Vea was talking about her dragon scale, how it had been a really long time since they'd been to the Octagon Lands. Maybe it was time. Maybe they could take Winston. Everyone agreed that that would be really, really cool. So Vea went to find her dragon scale that she hid in the sugar bowl in the cupboard. She took out the dragon scale and brought it to the rest of the crowd. And as she started to rub the sugar off the scale to clean it up, the magic instantly took place. And all 6 of them found themselves flying in the sky. The sky around them was the most brilliant blue sky that any of them had ever seen. It was like diving into a pot of paint that's the perfect sky color. If you close your eyes and you imagine the color of the sky on a really warm, perfect, beautiful sunny day, that's the color, but intensify it by 10. It was so breathtakingly beautiful. And what was interesting was Winston the kitten was at the front of the pack, leading the way. He was no longer a kitten. He was the most magnificent, ginormous, absolutely glorious dragon that you have ever seen. He was black, like Tucker when Tucker is a dragon. But Winston had silver streaks running down his back, just like his tabby stripes when he's a cat. But they shone in the sunlight, making him look like he had thunder striking across his broad, strong dragon back. And his wings were so big. It was like his wings would be able to easily wrap themselves round a normal-sized house. He was impressive. And he knew where he was going. Winston was flying up. They weren't flying through anymore. They were flying up, as if the direction that they were going in was beyond, even beyond whatever realm this was, the Octagon Lands down below. They were going up so fast, and the temperature around them was changing, almost to freezing point. Cherry shivered as she followed behind Tucker and Leo, that was directly behind Winston in the lead, and then Vaya and Heidi were behind Cherry, and they were flying in formation, up, higher, as if they were trying to hit the moon, if there was a moon surrounding this planet where they were. They were going so fast. At one point, Cherry changed the direction of one of her enormous dragon wings, and it sounded as if it cracked, like cracking ice. It was so cold. He didn't stop, though. Winston just kept going. He kept going through different layers of the atmosphere, going higher and higher, until eventually he just stopped, as if he was treading water in midair, and everyone lined up next to him. Winston's gorgeous blue eyes as a kitten were basically on fire. They were blazing, brilliant blue sapphires. They were so impressive. Heidi was almost taken aback when she noticed his eyes. There has to be something to do with his eyes. His eyes are the most brilliant blue that she's ever seen, she thought. There's something about Winston. His power, however it comes out, has to be definitely something to do with his brilliant sapphire eyes. What are sapphires for, after all? The crystal, sapphire, is all about wisdom. Wisdom. Virtue. He oozed wisdom. Winston felt like a wizard. His power and his presence. And he was so impressively enormous. He definitely made everyone look small next to him, all lined up, waiting to see what Winston was going to do. What is it going to be? What's his role here in Octagon Land? And then it happened. Winston turned and stared down the line of dragons, and his brilliant blue sapphire eyes turned into what looked like laser beams, and he laser beamed through each and every one of them. And as the laser went down the line, each one of their eyes changed, one at a time. And as they looked at each other, they all saw the same thing. They all had Winston's sapphire eyes. instinctively, they all started to blaze out these brilliant, powerful, bright blue laser beams from their eyes. And then, being the wise example, Winston turned his head and everyone followed to see what he was looking at. Winston was looking down at Octagon Land, as if it was miles and miles and miles away, like when you look down at Earth from space. Octagon Land, from here, was surrounded by a blue grid, a sphere, a protective shield of light that went around the whole planet. And then, without even saying a word, Winston directed his laser beam, powerful light towards the planet. At first, all the other dragons watched, unaware of what they were supposed to do. But then they noticed that there were fractures in the grid that surrounded Octagon Lands. Fractures meaning some parts weren't lit up. Some parts of the grid that surrounded the planet wasn't bright blue. Some parts were black. Some parts looked like it was cracked open, as if the sphere had been broken by something. Maybe something from the outside trying to get to the planet, invade the planet. It was becoming very apparent that Winston's role in these parts was to keep the grid alive, complete, whole, and protected. Protected from any other beings, any other animals, any other visitors that arrived in spacecrafts or arrived in rocket ships from Earth. Whoever it was that was coming to Octagon Lands, they weren't going to get in unless they were welcome. Winston looked at everyone as if to say, "Why aren't you doing what I'm doing?" And they all felt it. They sensed it, and they knew exactly what to do. The dragons started to fly around the planet. The sphere that they were flying in around the planet held them securely. It was no longer freezing cold. It was almost as if they'd fell into an envelope of air, of oxygen that was just right for their bodies. And as they flew and surrounded Octagon Lands, the planet down below, if they saw any cracks, any openings, any dark spots, they directed their beams of light, their sapphire laser beams from their eyes, and they soldered it. Like when you're welding and you fix a hole with metal and you burn it so it melts and then it comes back whole and complete. They replaced the broken parts of the grid by using the laser beams in their eyes. They lost track of time. They had no clue how long they were doing this. They just kept following Winston's lead. Sometimes they would fly through into a different envelope, a different pocket of air around the planet. Sometimes it was very, very warm. Sometimes it was freezing cold again. Sometimes they had to get closer to seal up the grid. And sometimes they'd have to fly even further away. At one point, Vea found herself in a pocket of air around the grid that made her shake frantically. She could barely keep her dragon body still as she worked intensively, directing the beams of light down into the hole that she'd spotted. It was like colouring a picture. When parts of it were blank, and you just make sure that you colour that part in, so you end up with a complete and whole picture when you've finished crayoning or using your felt tips or painting. That's what they were doing with their eyes, with the sapphires in their eyes that Winston had given them, because Winston was full of wisdom. Winston was a wizard. Winston was breathtakingly powerful. And yet back home he was this tiny little cute kitten. But here, in Octagon Land, he was like a god. He was literally twice the size of all the other dragons. So impressive. And his energy was so dominating and powerful. Everyone felt like he knew exactly what he was doing, and not one single dragon questioned why. They just followed along and did the work. The Sapphire grid was complete by the time that they'd done. Everyone got a sense that this needed to be done quite regularly to keep the planet safe within its boundaries, within the protective shield above and around. This was Winston's section of the Octagon, known as the Sapphire Grid. The end.